Imagine a man who became famous across Europe before he was 30, whose poetry sold out overnight, whose love affairs were debated like scandals in today's tabloids, and whose death sparked national mourning in a country that was not even his own. A man admired as a genius, feared as a moral threat, and remembered as a romantic rebel long after his time. This is the story of George Gordon Byron, better known to history as Lord Byron, poet, aristocrat, exile, and revolutionary icon. Lord Byron was born on January 22, 1788 in London, into a family already marked by instability. His father, Captain John "Mad Jack" Byron, was notorious for reckless behavior, debt, and scandal. He abandoned Byron's mother, Catherine Gordon, when Byron was still an infant, and died shortly afterward in France. As a result, Byron was raised primarily by his mother, whose temperament was volatile, alternating between affection and harsh criticism. Their relationship would leave deep emotional marks on him for the rest of his life. From birth, Byron faced a physical challenge that profoundly shaped his self-image. He was born with a deformity in his right foot, often described as a club foot. In a society obsessed with physical perfection and masculinity, this caused him lifelong insecurity. He endured painful treatments and orthopedic devices, and although he later became an excellent swimmer, rider, and boxer, he never fully escaped his fear of ridicule. This combination of vulnerability and defiance would become central to both his personality and his poetry. In 1798, Byron inherited the title of Baron Byron at just 10 years old after the death of his great-uncle. The title came with an ancestral estate, Newstead Abbey, but little money. The abbey was crumbling, the finances strained, and Byron grew up acutely aware of the gap between aristocratic status and financial reality. He was educated at Harrow School and later at Trinity College, Cambridge, where he began writing poetry seriously. His early verses were uneven but ambitious, reflecting his hunger for recognition. Byron published his first collection, Hours of Idleness. It was met with harsh criticism, particularly from the influential Edinburgh Review. Rather than retreat, Byron responded with fury and wit. His satirical poem, English Bards and Scotch Reviewers, attacked the literary establishment and announced him as a force unwilling to be ignored. It was a bold, risky move, and it worked. Between 1809 and 1811, Byron embarked on an extended journey through the Mediterranean and the Near East, traveling through Portugal, Spain, Albania, Greece, and parts of the Ottoman Empire. This was not simply a fashionable grand tour. Byron immersed himself in local cultures, learned languages, and developed a deep admiration for Greece and its classical heritage. These travels would later infuse his poetry with exoticism, political reflection, and a sense of longing for freedom. When Byron returned to England, he transformed his travel experiences into poetry. In 1812, he published the first two cantos of Childe Harold's Pilgrimage. The impact was immediate and overwhelming. Byron famously remarked that he woke up one morning and found himself famous. The poem captured the mood of post-Napoleonic Europe, weary, disillusioned, restless, and introduced a new kind of literary figure, the brooding, proud, emotionally wounded hero. This figure would later be known as the Byronic hero and would influence literature for generations. Suddenly, Byron was everywhere. He was welcomed into high society, admired for his beauty and charisma, and pursued relentlessly. His affairs became the subject of gossip, and his reputation for emotional intensity only fueled public fascination. Yet beneath the fame, Byron struggled. He felt trapped by social expectations, haunted by debt, and increasingly at odds with English moral norms. In 1815, Byron married Annabella Milbank, a mathematically inclined and morally serious woman who hoped marriage might stabilize him. It did not. The marriage quickly deteriorated, and after the birth of their daughter, Ada, later known as Ada Lovelace, Annabella left him. She never publicly detailed her reasons, but rumors spread rapidly. Allegations of incest, particularly involving his half-sister, Augusta Lee, circulated widely. While historians still debate the truth of these claims, the damage to Byron's reputation was devastating. By 1816, England had turned against him. Facing public condemnation, financial pressure, and personal despair, Byron left the country permanently. He would never return. His exile took him first to Switzerland, where he stayed near Lake Geneva. There, he formed a close friendship with Percy Bysshe Shelley and Mary Shelley. During this period, Byron wrote some of his most powerful works, including Manfred, a dramatic poem reflecting guilt, isolation, and defiance. The themes were darker, more philosophical, and deeply personal. Byron later settled in Italy, living in Venice, Ravenna, and Pisa. Italy offered him both creative freedom and political engagement. He became involved with the Carbonari, a secret revolutionary society seeking Italian independence from foreign rule. His poetry from this period, including Don John, marked a shift in tone. Don John was ironic, playful, satirical, and deeply critical of hypocrisy. It shocked some readers, but is now regarded as one of the greatest long poems in English literature. Despite his cynicism, Byron was not detached from the world's struggles. His admiration for Greece never faded, and when the Greek War of Independence against Ottoman rule began in 21, Byron saw an opportunity to act, not just write. In 1823, he traveled to Greece, spending large sums of his own money to support the cause. He helped finance a fleet, organized troops, and attempted to unite rival factions. Byron was not a seasoned military leader, but his presence mattered symbolically. He became a figure of hope and international attention for the Greek struggle. However, the physical toll was severe. In early 1824, while in Missolonghi, Byron fell ill with fever, likely worsened by bloodletting, a common medical practice of the time. On April 19, 1824, he died at the age of 36. His death shocked Europe. In Greece, he was mourned as a national hero. His heart was buried there, while his body was returned to England. Despite his fame, he was denied burial in Westminster Abbey due to moral objections. Only in 1969 would a memorial to Byron be placed there. Lord Byron's legacy is immense. He reshaped poetry, created a new literary archetype, and lived his beliefs with rare intensity. He was deeply flawed, impulsive, contradictory, often self-destructive, but also fiercely committed to freedom, emotional truth, and artistic independence. More than 2 centuries later, Byron remains a symbol of the romantic ideal, a life lived at full volume, for better and for worse.